My name is Vanessa Thielfold, and I will be doing the reflection for Chapter 17 of the Tortilla Flat. In this chapter, the funeral for Danny and the celebration of his life has begun. It begins with a summary of the usual funeral emotions and the tasks that those attending may do, but it also shares that a man once dead merely becomes an opportunity for a social celebration. Despite this, the government has promised traditional military funerals for all ex-soldiers' sons, giving them a costly funeral at the government's expenses. On the evening of the second day, and the night before the funeral, the men begin to worry that their rags would be disrespectful to wear to their friend's funeral, a man to whom they loved more than the rest of the Tortilla Flat. They soon question if they should even attend, despite this love and friendship that they had for Danny. They realize that the rest of the Tortilla Flat, although they didn't respect Danny or love them as much as the rest did, that they are only buying the new clothes and the suits and the dresses for the social celebration that the funeral entails, and not because they actually cared. They mourn and reminisce on their friendship that they all created with Danny the night before the funeral, telling stories of his goodness, his courage, and his piety. On the day of the funeral, Jose Maria was the first to break down in tears, and they all decided that it would be better to watch the funeral from the tall grass of the cemetery. On the day after the funeral, they begin celebrating his life with things Danny may have enjoyed doing. Pylons stole 2 gallons of wine, they listened to upbeat music, and they smoked cigars that Tito Ralph brought them. But when smoking these cigars, a newspaper had caught fire. But instead of putting it out, the men watched it with smiles as the fire crept up the wall like a snake and soon took the entire house with it. Once the house was gone, they left, all departing in different directions and not turning back. The passions that I had noticed throughout this chapter, there aren't many compared to the rest of the chapters throughout the book, but I definitely noticed sadness, grief, and despair throughout because of the funeral and the death of Danny. They feel the sadness and grief because they are mourning a friend that had changed their lives greatly. And this takes over them throughout this chapter for a good reason, though. Sadness is normal when it comes to funerals, and having this passion shows the respect and the respect that they had for Danny. Another I had noticed was a bit of despair. They had all lost the hope they had when Danny died, and that can be hard to recover from. These passions in this chapter are normal, like I said, and are feelings that come with loss. They are different compared to the other passions we have seen throughout this book, like jealousy, deception, anger, and lust. The techniques they can use to overcome these passions are to understand that it is normal to feel these, and without Danny, they would never have grown as people. Taking a step back and focusing on what Danny stood for is the best way to overcome the sadness they are feeling. The questions I have from this chapter is, did this chapter prove that Danny was what held their friendships together? And how is this shown throughout the chapter? Do you think that the men will change their lives for the better after the experiences that they went through, or will they go back to their old behavior? If so, who do you think is more likely to go back to their old passions? Do you think Danny's death was needed to end up the book, or do you think that the author could have done something else to wrap up the story he has created? And lastly, did they use the burning of the house as a way to send Danny off into the universe? Thank you, and enjoy.